The following program contains scenes which some audience members may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Those who know, study, and love sharks are certain of one thing. Attacks on human beings are so rare as to be statistically close to impossible. And when they strike, the only evidence is a corpse or a devastating wound. Although shark bites have been captured by cameras, shark attacks on humans have not.
Look at this big one here.
Until April 9th, 2002.
These are 400-pound, 8-foot sharks.
With cameras rolling, a shark scientist went into the water for what he thought was a routine interview. Things went terribly wrong. Now, Erich Ritter embarks on a journey of discovery, to remember.
It's unbelievable.
To relive.
The shark would come from the back.
And to recreate a nightmare with teeth. Anatomy of a shark bite. July 2003. In a conference room in Valencia, California, a screening is about to begin. 1 year earlier, Dr. Erich Ritter's luck ran out. A man who swam with sharks, who studied sharks, who loved sharks, became a rare statistic. Until this moment, he has not confronted the images of what happened.
Yeah, it's sort of weird to see this thing. I mean, hasn't a day passed where I did not think of this whole incident. It happened so fast. There's nothing I could have done. Wow. I didn't even think that I was bleeding that much. But obviously I did, huh?
This split second transformed him from shark scientist to shark victim.
And it was a very warm day, and I started to think that it might be over when I started to feel I'm getting cold. That's how I started to feel very calm. I just accepted what's going to happen and that I might die.
This short piece of film is the key to unlocking the secrets of one of our worst collective nightmares. Never before has a camera been so close that it can actually show the complex interaction of razor-sharp teeth and fragile human flesh. What really happened that day? What went wrong? What could he have done differently? Since the accident, Dr. Ritter has agonized over the sequence of events. A man whose second home was the ocean has a new quest. Before going back in the water, he has vowed to analyze and recreate every single moment in this extraordinary film footage. Not only will it help him come to grips with his injuries, it will take shark research into uncharted waters. How hard can sharks really bite? Do all species of shark bite the same way? What is the precise anatomy of the encounter between shark jaw and shark prey? What techniques do they use to inflict maximum damage on their victims? We're about to turn these deadly creatures of the deep into stainless steel mechanical monsters. Armed with our photographic data, we'll build a replica of the bull shark that took on Erich Ritter and recreate exactly what took place. This project requires more than film footage. It demands an expert team brought together from a wide range of disciplines. Jim Sheritz and John Skedel, special effects designers for the entertainment industry. Walt Conti, underwater animatronics wizard. Dr. David Posey, forensic medical examiner. Marine biologist Ernie Kovacs. Wesley Fisk, surrogate leg engineer. And of course, Erich Ritter.
Part of my work as a shark bite investigator is to analyze, to recreate shark bite scenarios. So we do dry runs. So if we have the rare opportunity of actually having a bite and then move backwards to see, okay, how can we recreate that? What is the angle? How many factors come together in order to create such a complex wound?
Our investigation begins on April 9th, 2002. Before that day, Dr. Ritter's career had taken him into the water on countless occasions, studying sharks at close range. In fact, he had earned a worldwide reputation for getting closer to them than anyone before him had ever dared. His point? To show us that with the right precautions, sharks can be approached and studied. But fate finally turned against Erich Ritter.
We were shooting for a television show, and we wanted to have it in a very spectacular way. I'm standing in a hip-deep water, surrounded by sharks.
Ritter was showing Nigel Marvin how easy it was to stand in chum-filled water, within inches of dozens of powerful wild animals.
Look at these lemons. Look at this guy. Look at that. But I certainly wouldn't do this on my own.
So as long as we don't move, you know, and they realize we're not a threat to them, they couldn't care less. Again, you know, it's beautiful.
That is a monster bull shark there.
That's a good sized puppy.
The men had now been in the water for almost an hour.
Wow, look at that bull shark there. It just touched me with the tail.
Look at this one.
The very first second when I felt something is going to happen, I only felt a bump. The bump is not unusual. If you work with sharks, they bump you once in a while to check you out. So I realized I get bumped, so I did not move. And then I felt kind of pain. I realized, okay, she got me. Most of the time, these sharks let go, but in my case, she did not. What happened for the next 1 or 2 seconds is all kind of blurry.
From a bump to a delicate bite, the encounter suddenly becomes life-threatening. The camera cuts. 3 seconds later, the shark is gone, taking a piece of Erich with it.
I lifted my leg out of the water. I realized that just a few muscle pieces, skin pieces are hanging down my leg, and I saw for the first time my shin bone. But it kicked in right away. The bleeding was so intense that I realized something has to happen very quickly or I'm gonna die.
The shark had removed Erich's entire calf muscle.
It was a very impressive looking wound, and at first glance I was concerned that he would lose the leg.
When Ritter arrived in the trauma center, he had lost 5 units of blood. The major artery in his leg had been cut.
We had to reestablish blood flow through that artery, and this is when I made the decision to take a piece of vein from his other leg and to use it as a bridge to gap the 2 parts of the artery that had been cut.
Thanks to the work of surgeon Orlando Morejón, Ritter is making a remarkable recovery. And now we can introduce him to members of his new club, Shark Bite Survivors.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Right.
Good.
Guess we're all here for the same reason.
It's an opportunity to engage in a kind of group therapy. And for Ritter, a chance to analyze and compare bites. Each wound is a complex piece of evidence of those devastating moments of shark-human contact.
When we start looking at each other's wounds, maybe we can learn something to analyze it from the bite picture, and let's see what we can do.
The arm was still attached. There was just bone here and then flesh hanging, and it was probably about 5 minutes, 4 to 5 minutes, that the wound was open to the ocean and blood was just flowing out. There was about 25 other surfers in the area when all of a sudden I felt something by my right arm. The next thing I know, I was underwater. I could feel the sand with my feet, and I could feel my surfboard with the tips of my fingers. When I rose up to the surface, there was about a 16 or 18-inch wide yellow head attached to my arm. And by the time, let me take a break a second.
Shark bite forensics must tell the rest of this story.
It sounds like it went straight down to the bone, and you lost probably your major artery at this level, your brachial artery, and probably most of the nerves too, is from what it sounds like, from this just defleshing of the bones.
Yeah, when I look at this wound, the interesting thing is here you still have actually more or less full tissue, and here you're lacking quite a bit.
See them to have.
To the untrained eye, Al Brenica's wound is simply a shocking reminder of the power of a shark bite. To Ritter, it's an insight into shark behavior.
The animal would have come from the outside, she could have let go, but because it was sort of stuck, you guys were locked together.
We were locked together, right. It's when I finally said, I'm gonna hold on to you until you let go of me, and then it was like instantly gone.
Sometimes when you reach the gill slits, those are very sensitive. When you get into gills, the animal very often really open their jaws again.
Ritter believes the viciousness of this shark bite was not deliberate.
It was nice that they did.
But Kent Bondi's bite was different. He made the mistake of spearfishing in shark territory, where the scent of fish blood can arouse unwanted interest.
We're spearfishing about 2.5 miles from shore. I got to within 2 to 3 feet from the surface, and that's when the shark hit. It was like getting hit by a car. It was that impactful. The whole accident happened in a split second.
As I feel your wound right here, right across this portion right here, I can actually feel a part of your fibula.
Yeah.
There's a little thin bone on the outside. Was that exposed?
That was exposed, yes, it was.
Okay.
Ritter's especially interested in this bite because, like his, it came from a bull. He spots that the shark bit not once, but twice.
This is the upper jaw. And so this is the first bite. This is the axle of the first. And here you see another axle going this way. So actually, it was twice. I mean, first bite, second bite.
It's interesting you say that because the one thing I do also remember, quickly as it was, I did felt like bite. Exactly what it felt like, yeah.
The motivation for this attack, Ritter surmises, was competition for a tasty piece of fish.
So what the animal basically did, she wanted to, would say, shake you up. But she could not get a really good hold of it. And in this bite, this is what most likely a competition. The animal definitely want show its presence to what you were doing, basically competition to the fish you just shot.
Ritter's encounter with these shark bite survivors gives him insight into his own experience. But our investigation of what went on in these few seconds is only beginning. How hard did the shark bite? What could the victim have done to make the wound turn out differently? For that, we need to go deeper into the anatomy of a shark bite. To analyze moment by moment the gruesome consequences of shark tooth meeting human flesh. We are about to create something never before seen, an artificial man-eater. And as deadly as the bull shark can be, it pales in comparison with this killer, the great white, an animal that cannot survive captivity. The great white cannot be contained, but it can be recreated. Our technical team is going to build a 20-foot-long mechanical monster that can move as fast as the real thing and take a bite out of anything we put in its path. This young woman lost her leg to a great white. Now, 9 years later, she will learn what really happened. And we'll build a secret killer, the tiger shark, and uncover the real story behind history's most deadly encounter between shark and man. The shark attacks that took the lives of perhaps hundreds of sailors of the torpedoed USS Indianapolis in 1945. Prepare to explore the anatomy of a shark bite. 1 year ago, Erich Ritter's life was changed by the savage bite of a bull shark. Despite suffering a wound that will leave him with a permanent limp, he's determined to carry on his research, to understand why and precisely how sharks bite. But even with this rare film to analyze, much of what really happened during Erich's attack remains a mystery. The reason? Just 4 seconds after the first bite, the shark's tail obscures the action, then the underwater camera cuts. To get the whole picture, we need to fill in those lost moments. See the unseen angles. For understandable reasons, Ritter's memories of the event are clouded. To begin to fill in the blanks, we arranged for him to meet an eyewitness. James York was a member of the camera crew who helped him from the water that day.
This was the scariest thing I've ever seen, but...
So, what did you actually see?
All I really saw was out of the corner of my eye, one of the animals swimming very close to you, and then all of a sudden I saw you spin and move through the water about 10 yards, and then the water just turned red.
Yeah.
And that, you know, it's hard to tell the story because the time is so different. Like, it happened so fast.
Yeah.
Ritter has no recollection of being dragged by the shark.
Okay.
But he's determined to learn exactly what happened that April day. Determined enough to perform a unique experiment to dissect his nightmare.
Welcome to the Shark Factory.
Movie special effects wizard Walt Conti has built animatronic stand-ins for aquatic superstars like Free Willy and Flipper. The reenactment we've asked him to engineer today promises to provide new angles and insight. This model of a mako shark is almost the exact size and weight of the bull shark that attacked Dr. Ritter.
It's unbelievable.
It's all in the details, you know, it's about getting everything just right. Through watching a lot of video and really frame by frame by frame, we've put a lot of emphasis in replicating the movement, so when it swims just like a real shark.
That really looks
He's
real.
shaking up the water here, huh?
It's unbelievable. So I think with this model, it should give me an idea, or a better idea, what really happened to me. So yeah, let's give it a try.
Erich Ritter is about to be attacked by an 8-foot shark for the second time.
Okay, we tried to recreate the setup. I was, the shore was here on this side, open water was there. My position was towards the shark and where the food was in. So what I did not see, of course, was the shark that came from behind. The camera will be right here in the back. And then once the shark grabs me, you know, then I'll turn around at the end, the shark goes back into that direction.
Okay, here we go.
That was very close, yeah.
It definitely is something you don't really want to experience every day, out of nowhere, a shark hitting you this way, even if it's a model.
So that actually helped kind of to recreate, get the feeling of what you were going through?
Yeah.
To get a complete picture of the event, Conti needs to make this robotic attack a carbon copy of the real one. In the seconds after the camera covering the real bite cuts, it's clear from our reconstruction what the shark was really trying to do: escape with Ritter in order to consume him in deeper water. Although it is hard to imagine, Erich Ritter may have been lucky that day.
I felt when the shark really grabbed me that she tried to push me into the deeper water, and with Walt Conti's model, which was pretty heavy, I actually get a similar sensation of this feeling of being pushed.
But reliving the attack brought back another memory for Ritter: the fact that he eventually lifted his leg.
So I tried to stand up and tried to lift my leg, because I realized that the only thing that she lets go is if I put her in a vertical position, or in a position where her gill slits will be affected, that I squeeze them together.
With her head tilted up, the shark's gill slits would squeeze shut, restricting her breathing and forcing her to release Ritter's leg.
There are a few dozen sharks there.
Yeah.
Let me go right.
Recreating the chain of events that led to Ritter's bite has given us the choreography of his attack, but we still know nothing about what happened when the shark bit down into his calf.
See, that's how she got me.
How did he end up with this horrific injury? To discover that, we need to understand the mechanics of shark bites and accurately measure the bite of a real live shark. But how is it possible to get data from such an elusive, wild creature?
There's sort of the virtual shark jaws. Right, so there's...
Erich Kovacs, part marine biologist, part garage engineer, has devised a way.
What I need to do is calibrate it. There's 200, and there's 400.
In this bite meter, steel ball bearings get crushed into soft aluminum.
When the shark bites down, it'll press those ball bearings right in there. You can see the size of the indentations in there.
An indelible imprint of a shark bite.
So there they are. Those are the bite meters.
Ritter and his crew are heading for a known shark feeding ground off the coast of Bimini in the Bahamas, not far from the scene of his bull shark attack.
There you go. There. Right here.
Oh, okay, guys, that's it. I'm not going in. Nope.
Shark wrangler James York is here with Erich again. But for this new phase of his research, Ritter will be staying topside.
So when the shark bites down, then the ball bearings are going to get shoved into the aluminum, and I've calibrated it all.
How do you want to attach it?
We got steel cables so they can't bite through it for the first few feet.
Okay.
And I'm thinking to get the real hard bite, if we could sort of wrestle it with them, just don't let it take it real easily.
So I'm going to tuck a wall. Yeah. We might lose one.
Okay.
If I'm holding on to it.
Okay.
The shark's pretty strong. No
So-
guarantees on wrestling that back.
To make sure the sharks grab the bite meters with a full-strength feeding bite, the devices are wrapped in tasty barracuda.
They respond very quickly and very aggressively to this kind of fish.
Chainmail sleeves are vital when working outside the protection of a cage. James York, who'll be handling bait, needs a full bodysuit to prevent puncture wounds from shark teeth. It's a precaution, but it's not foolproof. Before the crew even has a chance to set up, sharks are on the scene. These are large reef sharks, but their similar jaw anatomy makes them a perfect model for the bull. Dr. Ritter will be overseeing the experiment from the boat.
How many sharks do you have down there roughly right now?
At least a dozen.
The biggest of these sharks is 8 feet long. Their jaws are powerful enough to cause a serious wound.
That one coming in close.
The sharks are already starting to lose their natural caution of humans. Wrangler James York nearly loses his finger.
That was mighty close.
But no bites on the bite meters yet.
Just sort of checking it out. No bite, just checking it out.
And 40 minutes later, still no bites.
James, why don't you put on some more bait? Maybe that gets him a little more excited.
We can try that. We'll give that a try.
Okay.
Although the extra bait increases the danger to our divers, it arouses immediate interest in the bite meters. But there's one thing Erich Kovacs didn't plan on, retrieving one from inside a shark's throat.
Right off the rock. It looks like it's swallowed it almost. So that didn't work too well.
Ironically, if he's going to reconstruct the attack that almost took his life, Erich Ritter needs one thing: a shark bite. Before building our mechanical sharks, we first need some vital data from real ones. But our mission to measure the true power of shark bites is running into trouble. While most of the sharks have so far refused to bite, one of them decided to swallow our first bite meter whole. And now it keeps circling the dive site. Erich Ritter is coordinating the experiment from the boat. But he's not used to being topside when sharks are below. His crew, however, refuses to give up. But our bait is still not looking very appetizing.
I think it would be best if we put it on the bottom, directly at the bottom, so she can grab it from right there.
There's a bite. Good bite.
Even out of the water, Ritter seems to be able to think like a shark.
See a lot of clear marks all in the PVC. That was a good hard bite.
Guys, great job. Great job.
To get reliable readings, we need to record several bites. All of a sudden, the sharks are being overly cooperative. This reef shark gives us 5 bites for the price of 1.
Got a ton of good bites out of that one.
These sharks are competing for the right to bite.
Hey, that's looking like a tasty morsel.
Our bite force experiment has gone from not even a nibble to a full course banquet.
Yeah, we got 8 good bites.
Yeah, awesome.
Thankfully, that first swallowed bite meter can also be included in the scientific haul.
How do you do it?
James, the sharks went by. James just grabbed onto the line, fought the shark a little bit, and the shark regurgitated it.
Ernie Kovacs is about to discover the bite force of the Caribbean reef shark.
Well, we've got some indentations.
The bite meters worked and revealed a maximum bite force of 150 pounds. Surprisingly, it's not much more than the power of a human's.
The highest bite pressure we got, 150 pounds, and it doesn't seem like that much. If someone stepped on your arm, it probably hurt, but you wouldn't lose an arm or anything. But I think a better way to think about it is 150 pounds of pressure on maybe a saw blade on your arm, because those teeth are like saw blades or worse.
There is more to a shark bite than sheer brute force. There are those razor-sharp teeth and the fact that sharks can attack at speed and violently shake their heads. To understand the complex mechanics of shark bites and to reconstruct the shocking attack on Erich Ritter, we need to create something completely new. Mechanical sharks. But who could we find to build these machines? Machines that must work with tremendous force and absolute precision. That's the kind of challenge that one group of engineers deals with every day. This is Technifex, builders of thrill rides for the theme park industry. And they rose to meet our challenge.
Got his mouth wide open at this point.
Right. See how the gums expand right in here?
Right.
Basically pulls his teeth back, or his lip back, and he bares the gums.
Right, so they go back and the teeth actually come out.
Yeah.
Right. And
So we'll have to separate the jawline from the actual head and make the head move separate from the jaw.
We asked them to build not one, but 2 mechanical predators. First, a full-size bull shark, so that we can precisely recreate Erich Ritter's bite.
And you're thinking going pneumatically rather than hydraulically?
We can achieve those pressures with air pressure.
And to allow us to analyze another videotaped shark attack, we challenged them to create a 20-foot-long great white.
For the great white, it's about 135 pounds of tooth. So we're looking at probably almost 2,000 pounds of bite pressure over that whole jaw.
Reproducing the ferocity of wild animals will take some heavy-duty construction. They'll have to move at speeds up to 25 miles an hour. Real sharks have flexible cartilage skeletons. Ours will be a little more sturdy.
Well, our challenge in the design process was being able to take the impact and create the pressures of the actual shark. So we've come up and triangulated a lot of these pieces specifically designed to take that impact.
Our biggest challenge will be creating a durable version of the business end of the shark, the teeth.
I have this tooth that we pulled out of a reef jaw.
Let's see how sharp it is.
Yeah, does a pretty good job.
Yeah, pretty good job.
Here's a razor blade.
Yeah, look how much more rough the tooth is.
A lot more damage.
But razor-sharp shark teeth aren't exactly a catalog item. Dr. Gordon Hubble is owner of the world's biggest collection of shark teeth. He's agreed to supply us with a couple of rare specimens. Real jaws from a bull and a giant great white. Shark teeth and human teeth are made of the same stuff, but in sharks, they're not fixed to the jaw.
The thing that's unique about them is the fact that the teeth do not sit in sockets. They are attached to the gum tissue, actually, that covers the jaw, and the gum tissue moves forward like a slowly moving conveyor belt.
And preserved shark jaws are very brittle. So the Technifex team is taking Dr. Hubble's shark jaws and upgrading them to withstand repeated testing. Our sharks will have jaws of carbon steel, driven shut by powerful pneumatic rams.
That's looking really good, I like it.
And for good measure, another pair of rams can shake their heads from side to side during a bite.
We've got good placement here. Nothing's rubbing, touching, we've got a full bite. Sure, try it like that.
It's pretty strong.
Yeah, now be careful, it's gonna burn you.
Now, our sharks are ready for their first meal. Sharks have roved the Earth's oceans for more than 400 million years. They are its supreme predators. But now, a new species has evolved. One cut from fiberglass and steel. We nicknamed it Bruce. When Dr. Erich Ritter had most of his lower leg removed by a 400-pound bull shark, at first he wanted the footage of the bite destroyed. He thought it would only increase people's fear of sharks. But being a scientist, he reconsidered. And the seed of these mechanical sharks was sown. Now, Ritter is on a quest to discover what happened to him.
Oh, we took the gauge.
With this device, he can reconstruct and analyze his nightmare. In place of muscles,
all right, so we're gonna go ahead and take it up to 24.
this shark will be using pneumatic rams to simulate bites.
I weigh about 155 pounds. So.
Really?
So that's...
Wow.
But in order to recreate nature exactly, we must first calibrate this artificial jaw to match the results our divers found in the Bahamas.
I'm gonna have you activate the jaw when I say. All right, bite's activated. All right.
Okay, pressure coming up.
A reading on the pneumatic pressure gauge needs to be translated into actual bite force. The Technifex crew soon discovers that's easier said than done. The exact science of mechanical sharks has not yet been formulated.
It went from like 25 up to 250 pounds and about like that. I want to try it again with this other gauge, and that way we can check both of them.
Okay.
Attaching a second weight gauge to the jaw gives a more reliable reading.
This one seems to be reading more accurately.
As a final check, Jim Sheritz decides to use a bite meter to directly compare the Caribbean reef bite to this shark's metal tooth marks.
All right, close. Ooh, that's a good bite. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, we got some nice little marks in there.
It's a match. Now we need to find out how much harder a 400-pound bull can bite than a 200-pound reef.
So what do you think, John?
So with the information we've got, we know how much air pressure will give us how many pounds of force. So we can take these guys from about 25 up to about 400 pounds of force.
So far with the Caribbean Reef, we had about 150. That's what we did in the field. So that would be about 15.
That's great, about 15
PSI,
PSI.
yeah.
Okay.
So assuming or estimate that the bull shark has about double the weight than the Caribbean Reef sharks, I think we should go about twice as high.
It's feeding time. First, an appetizer. This is what a shark can do at just 150 pounds of force. That's no more powerful than a human bite. But those razor-sharp teeth make all the difference. And if we want to find out what a bull shark can do to human flesh and human bone, we need to feed it a little fiber.
Let's just try sticking this guy in there.
Want to do an end bite?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's just see what kind of damage it can do. Go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, almost all the way down to the gum.
It is. It's very.
Even at 300 pounds of bite force, the shark cannot chomp through solid wood.
Very.
But sharks do more than just close their jaws on prey. When they decide they want a piece of something, they begin to thrash from side to side. Can our robotic shark do real damage to real flesh? In order to recreate the bite that Erich Ritter suffered, our mechanical bull shark needs a more realistic sample. For the sake of understanding his tragic accident, Technifex has supplied a sacrificial lamb.
Well, we'll see what it does. And yeah, because we got some meaty sections in here.
Okay.
First, an exploratory bite, 150 pounds of force.
Let's get him in there.
Going into the rib cage.
Okay. And bite. Open up. Let's see what we got here.
Now up to 300 pounds, a more realistic strong bite for a bull shark, and a head shake.
Let's try the same position at maybe just over slightly, and we'll try it at 300. Clamp it. Let's go ahead, head shake. Give him some, there you go. That's it. All right, Hank, that's good. Let's see what kind of action we got in there. Go ahead and open him up.
Penetration's great.
The bite on Ritter failed to break his shin bone. But how strong was it?
Let's try the same one. Let's try the one.
To find out, we first need to see what force would break his bone, and then scale back.
Watch your fingers there. Yep.
Here's 400 pounds.
Go ahead, Lauren.
There you go.
That looks pretty tight.
Shake away.
Once the bone is broken, the flesh rips apart with horrifying ease.
There you go.
For Ritter, this experiment is already bringing back powerful memories.
This part reminds me of my own bite. At the very end, when she let go, basically was through. Just close the jaw and pull away, and this is what's left.
So you got the tendons and flesh.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, see, look at the bone here.
At the very beginning, yeah, very clear.
This surrogate bull shark is now ready for the prey it was designed for. A surrogate leg.
Well, it's actually designed to be like real skin, and hopefully we're going to see the same sort of response in this as with a real person.
We have built an artificial shark. Now we will feed it an artificial leg. Developed by Australian company Anatomical Surrogate Technologies to study the damage caused by landmines, the materials that make up this limb precisely match the composition of real bone, muscle, and skin. It's the closest we can get to an actual human leg.
This composite leg, when you touch it and examine it, makes you feel that you're dealing with a real live leg.
Medical examiner Dr. David Posey has joined our forensic team for this blow-by-blow of Erich Ritter's bite.
We should get some real realistic reactions out of it, right?
This anatomical surrogate has another advantage. It is moist, very moist. Just like the human body, it's 60% water. Posey and surrogate limb expert Wesley Fisk think it will be a lot more delicate than the lamb.
Well, I think one of the problems with using something like lamb is that it's been hung, it doesn't actually have any blood in it, so the hydration factor is a very important thing.
Certainly, this composite leg, when you touch it and examine it, makes you feel that you're dealing with a real live leg.
it's time to duplicate Erich's bite exactly. Could his accident have turned out any different?
She just grabbed me, like expert her bite, and then she really went for the real thing. Basically, I pulled away and she peeled me like a banana. That's when she got all the tissue.
First, that initial gentle exploratory bite. 150 pounds of force.
Our mouth here is open and ready. Now, if you can describe, it was right towards the back side.
Yeah, but this was the upper jaw about here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's easy. We can kind of set him in there. Okay, Lauren, go ahead and close the mouth. Okay, that's full bite. Okay, go ahead and release.
Yeah, the first bite again was clamping. It was painful, but not to the point that it was excruciating.
Had the shark let go at this point, Ritter would have walked away with a small flesh wound.
Dr. Poser, do you think there would have been any release of blood from a wound such as this?
Oh, sure. You can see the puncture wounds here, and there's deep injury into the muscle itself. In other words, there's going to be some bleeding because of crushing of the bite.
But that wasn't the end of the incident. For some reason, tasting human flesh, not fish, did not dissuade the shark from biting again.
All right, we'll go ahead and increase the pressure in the hole into that.
Now the shark is ready to clamp down with a hard bite. The mechanical shark crew knows from the lamb test that this must be less than a leg bone breaking 400-pound bite, so they set the gauge at 300 pounds.
Okay, go ahead. Take the bite. Look at that.
The teeth have sunk in much further, and from inside the shark jaw, we can see that the calf muscle is severely crushed.
Yeah, at this stage, then she did a saw motion.
Okay.
And this is at the point where I start to react as well.
Go ahead, give it a few side to side. Yeah, there you go.
With the crew holding on to the leg to represent the rest of Erich's body weight in the water, the bull shark begins its head shake.
Let's release this and see what kind of damage we had at this point. Go ahead, Lauren. Yeah, I mean, look at.
Yeah. Well, the damage is very significant.
Yeah.
We've got extreme damage.
The shark didn't have enough bite force to cut through flesh and bone, but Erich's efforts to pull away and the shark's thrashing are already producing devastating injuries.
The natural reaction, you try to
the jerk
get away.
Knee-jerk reaction.
Sure. The natural reaction causes more damage.
If the shark had let go at this point, the wound may have already caused him to lose much of his calf muscle. But at this point, the shark changes tack.
All right, so let's recreate that last bite.
Yeah, so what we do is now we lower the pressure. So basically she's now opening her mouth, the point that she gives me my shin bone back, but still she has a taste still in the wound, and then we...
And she takes off.
Perhaps because Erich lifted his leg, or perhaps because the shark realized it could not bite through the bone. The creature released and repositioned its jaw further back on the calf.
All right, so at this stage where it's positioned now, we'll take it up to the full pressure, and then we'll give it that pull away.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to take that pressure back.
Here's what 300 pounds of bite force does to human muscle.
You can hear it digging in. All right, that's at that full pressure, but did you hear it? You hear the pressure?
Really hear the
pressure increase?
Coming through.
All right, so now she's really got it. And now,
Appreciate the crushing.
Now,
basically now I pull and then
oh, look at it starting to come
rotate
apart.
rotate it down there.
That's what happened.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah,
Okay, she's going to...
Yeah.
Then the final fateful moment when the shark wrenches away.
Yeah. So look at that.
Yeah, that's
right above the bone. I mean, right to the bone.
Basically,
that's exactly what happened to you.
That's exactly what happened.
Our mechanical shark has reproduced the anatomy of the bite on Erich Ritter in incredible detail.
What do you take away from this?
It's not, these animals do not just bite and try to swallow. They really, even in the act of biting, they really have to, let me say, think. It's not just a stupid animal just go for it and rips it off.
The whole event lasts just a few seconds. First, a light bite, about 100 pounds of force. Second, a full force bite, 300 pounds around the whole leg. The shark then begins to shake to try to rip off the entire leg to no avail. Finally, the third bite. It repositions and pulls away the entire calf muscle in another 300-pound bite. What's most amazing of all is that this horrific damage was caused by a bite only twice as powerful as that of a human. Human flesh is delicate.
When I saw how my leg wound got recreated with the serrated leg, I actually lost quite a piece of my body in this accident.
Our recreation has shown that a shark attack is a highly complex act,
Go ahead, give it a few side to side, yeah.
where the actions of the shark and the reactions of the victim both contribute to the wound. But as horrible as Erich's experience was, could it have been even worse? Now, Dr. Ritter learns a shocking fact. Although he lost most of his leg, he was actually lucky. For there's something that's even more terrifying than the sight of a shark's teeth close up. And that's the sight of them heading toward you at 25 miles an hour. In the open ocean, sharks often attack at this speed, stunning prey with the pure force of the impact. The teeth come later. What kind of damage would a human suffer if it got in the path of a speeding shark? That's something Erich Ritter has more than a passing interest in. The day he was bitten, he was within inches of some fast-moving bull sharks.
So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to move this shark down this track that we've created here and bring it into targets at full speed. Speeds up to 25 miles an hour. To achieve that, we've set up computer control to animate the bite sequence, and we've also tethered targets with the extra weight that's added to it to kind of mimic it being in the water. So we're going to see what it can actually do, what kind of damage.
To simulate a high-speed attack, you need to develop a shark's sense of timing. And shark attacks happen underwater. That water creates resistance when the victim is hit.
600 pounds, so we got 300 pounds of force.
In order to measure that drag, we turned a pool at Technifex into an underwater test chamber.
So behind the knees at 60 hertz, there's just no way you can hold on. Nothing at all.
So fast, I can't.
Underwater crash test dummy Jim Sheritz is starting to understand what it's like to be hit by a shark.
Wow, that fast speed, that was amazing. It was I could feel myself just as if I was getting impacted and taken off. I was completely helpless.
About 330 pounds.
Adding this weight to our leg will simulate the effects of being dragged through the water by a shark at 15 miles per hour. Our first test will answer a question that has been on Erich's mind for over a year. Was he actually lucky that day? Could his shark bite have been even worse? What would have happened if the shark had come at him at moderate cruising speed?
So Wes, we got it rigged up here. I think so now. It's looking pretty close. So, we should get a really good bite coming in. What we've done here is we've tethered the weight directly. We wanted to kind of represent that body out there. So we should have just a little delay on the impact, and then we should feel, it should feel that weight as if it were resistance in the water.
Armed with our pool calculations, we tether the appropriate weight to the high-tech surrogate leg. The bull shark's jaw is set to 300 pounds of force, the same as Erich's actual bite. Its attack speed will be 15 miles an hour.
Oh, baby!
Oh, yes.
Look at this.
Wow. Unbelievable.
She took that leg
The force of the impact snapped the bone with ease. What's left in the shark's mouth could have been Erich's lower leg.
Look at that. That's absolutely messy. Ouch. Damage is incredible.
Yeah. The only difference I think you'd see in real life is I think the rest of this leg would have stayed with the bone because of all of the other connective tissue that was around it, but the foot definitely would have been gone.
I mean, I'm aware of cases where sharks come up and just
took lower limbs. I'm aware of that. It's hard to say how fast the shark can, but seeing this model, this simulation, I can imagine that it must have happened a similar way.
This is at 15 miles an hour.
Well, I can easily do that.
When we were moving that bull shark up to 15 miles an hour, there was a tremendous amount of impact, and the damage was so much different. And I think, you know, both Eric and I agree that he was very lucky to have experienced the shark at a static bite rather than at moving pressure, because it actually broke the bone and just, completely destroyed the leg.
Because she came so slow, she actually gave me a chance, and that's why I still have my leg. Otherwise, a little faster, there would nothing be left.
We've shown just how much damage a speeding shark attack can do. But there are bigger sharks out there than the bull. One shark is more than 5 times as big, the great white. Despite their fearsome reputation, attacks by great whites on humans are incredibly rare. Just a handful occur each year. Our investigation into the devastation that this marine giant can cause begins with an event even more improbable than the filmed bite on Erich Ritter. In 1994, 19-year-old Heather Boswell went for a swim in the middle of the Pacific.
I was working in the galley on the ship, and we were preparing for barbecue. We were about 300 miles east of Easter Island, just out in the middle of the Pacific. It was, warm. I'd never been in water like that. It was just, it was really clear and blue. And a guy just suddenly yelled, "Shark."
Incredibly, a video camera happened to be pointed in Heather's direction as a great white struck.
God.
Everybody out of here! Everybody out of here! It yanked Heather's leg off. It took her leg off. It took it off. It's gone.
By the time this amateur video stopped rolling, Heather Boswell had suffered not 1, but 2 bites from a great white. This disturbing footage is by far the most detailed record of a great white attack that we have.
I turned around and I saw his dorsal fin. It was huge, it was kind of towering over me in the water. And then that's when the shark started chewing on my right leg.
This is the moment when the shark bites Heather for the first time.
It didn't hurt at all. It was just kind of like a puppy chewing on your finger. It didn't hurt. It was just kind of, just happening.
Seeing Heather was under attack, an inflatable boat came around and someone leaned overboard to offer her a broom handle.
The shark came up and grabbed me and pulled me under. And I remember I had the stick in my hand because it jerked it out of the people in the boats, their hand, because it was, just such a hard jerk.
This time, the great white bit down hard.
I didn't feel the pain of him biting on my left leg. And when he shook me underwater, it didn't hurt. I just remember it was really, really rough. I felt like a rag doll. And then when he brought me back up and the people on the boat played a tug-of-war, I didn't feel pain then either. All I felt was a pop. The shark bit off most of my leg, about a little above mid-thigh. Yeah, I think I have about 5 inches of femur left, something like that. But he took it off pretty high.
Heather Boswell has lived with the consequences of this attack for nearly a decade. But she's about to embark on a new phase of her recovery, to understand the mechanics of the bite itself. Our mechanical shark designers will help her see exactly what happened to her while she was under attack by that 1,500-pound creature, and begin to explain the anatomy of a great white shark bite. Our mechanical shark designers have cut their teeth building a bull shark that recreated Erich Ritter's wound. Now, the special effects engineers at Technifex are bringing a real monster to life. A 20-foot-long pneumatic great white. With steel teeth that precisely match a real-life set of fearsome triangular daggers. Every single great white tooth has a series of miniature saw blades along its edge. We've reproduced them exactly. Great white sharks have the dubious honor of being considered nature's supreme killing machines. What can the jaws of a great white shark really do? And how would it feel to be hit by a 1.5-ton beast at 25 miles per hour?
Oh my God.
Heather Boswell is one of few people alive who have first-hand experience with these awesome jaws, and the only one whose attack was filmed. And now she's come to meet our team of mechanical shark makers to find out exactly how and why the great white savaged her. No one knows the true power of a great white's jaw, and our bite meter built for bull sharks is just not up to the job.
I think, you know, this size would probably be a joke with a great white. You know, the jaws may be wider than the whole bite meter. It might just swallow the whole thing whole.
But there is one tantalizing insight into this animal's mighty bite. One brave man did his own tests with a gigantic bite meter.
What actually occurred with the white shark here.
Biologist and shark lover Jeremiah Sullivan designs protective suits for shark divers. While researching various materials, he inadvertently created a bite meter for the biggest shark of all.
This is the actual tube they used for these tests with it was a great white shark, right?
Yeah, it's about a 15-footer. We actually managed to get the shark to bite through this material.
Even this tube of bulletproof Kevlar couldn't withstand the bite of a great white. For Jim Sherritt's, it's an opportunity to recreate that same bite force with an identical piece of Kevlar tube and an industrial-strength hydraulic press.
And these teeth are probably, say, $800,000 a piece. Why don't we try doing this with some other material than an actual white shark
Well,
tooth?
we happen to make one out of steel.
Perfect.
The pressure reading when our metal tooth penetrates as deep as the real one did will reveal the exact force of the bite.
More, keep going, keep going, keep going. There you go, right there.
This is about 85 PSI. If we calculate that out, that's about 300 pounds of force.
300 pounds is no more than a bull shark can do. A surprising result for a 1-ton creature, unless it was just an exploratory bite. But the great white often hits prey at speed. This is what the Technifex engineers try to replicate. Who said imitating nature was easy?
That didn't go as well as we planned.
Okay.
What did it do? It didn't grab it. We gotta get rid of the weight. Yeah, so we'll drop it down and get, I mean, if we can hit that timing, we're gonna hit him really well.
Nail him right on.
All right, Kevin's got it now. Right there. Right there. All right, we all ready to go? I think you got a fish, man.
This fish is shark chum.
Got him right along the back of the spine. You know, I bet. I wonder if you crush that spine on me.
Well, on this guy, I think the spinal column is actually a little in front, but he definitely got a good chunk of his back.
Go ahead, Kevin. Open.
Oh, wow.
I mean, this fish wouldn't have swum.
Take a look at the other side.
Being hit by a great white at speed breaks bones and makes fearsome puncture wounds. In fact, it's like being hit by a train. But what about the actual bite of the great white?
He's got a good hold on this thing. Okay.
That's what Heather Boswell is here to find out. Heather's leg was not broken by a high-speed impact, but severed by the great white's powerful bite. How hard can these huge creatures clamp down? This is what 300 pounds of bite force does to a large watermelon. Remember, this is just a light exploratory bite for a great white.
We really want to find what force it took.
But to find out how much force it took to sever Heather's leg, we need to use an animal bone of similar size to her femur.
Can you recall, the intensity of the bite pressure?
It was really, really strong. The most vivid memory I have is when he pulled me underwater and was shaking me back and forth. That was very intense.
The lesser end of pressure on this is about 300 pounds on the bite. We want to take that up because we feel it probably had a really good hold on you. So we're going to take this up to about 500 pounds of pressure, and go ahead and try and simulate this attack. Go ahead, give it a chop there. All right.
At the moment her leg came off, Heather was caught in a terrifying tug of war between the great white and the people trying to save her. To recreate those forces, Jim hangs on to the lamb as the jaws shake.
Okay, hold it. Yeah, so he's got quite a bit of quite a bit in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's crushed the bone yet or not. Let's go ahead and open the mouth for a sec.
The bone is hardly damaged at 500 pounds of bite force.
So maybe we can take this up to about a 600-pound bite. See what we get from there.
600 pounds?
Time to up the pressure to 600 pounds.
Give it a bite down. Yeah, I felt it really take a hold there. Go ahead and chomp it a couple times.
600 is just enough force to break through.
All right, give it a head shake. I think it's through that bone.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get a grip.
So at that 600 pounds of force, it's literally just breaking the bones.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
I mean, at this stage, if you have like the rest of the skin just between teeth, there's not much the animal does. I mean, it just shakes a little bit.
The lamb is badly mutilated, but Heather is convinced that her attacker had a more powerful bite.
I didn't feel my bone break until, I was like right there, yeah. I mean, I don't remember him, mangling me like that.
Right.
The shark that attacked Heather must have chomped straight through the bone. To understand how the great white took her leg, we need to replicate this level of bite force.
All right, John, let's take it up to 900 pounds of force.
900 pounds?
Let's try and simulate this bone-crushing force.
When the test team arrives at a 900-pound bite, this is what happens.
900 pounds of force.
Okay. Yeah, you can hear it just crushing right through.
This there was right through. This right through. Yeah, that's.
Let's take a look.
Yeah, I mean this is clearly through. Same.
So like, even the teeth?
Yeah.
They went right through the ribs, right through the ribs.
To confirm their suspicions that this bite had a force of almost half a ton behind it, our investigators turn again to the surrogate leg.
We should be able to actually feel the bone in under here.
It's right.
So it will come back.
The shin bone of this model of a male lower leg represents Heather's thigh bone almost exactly.
I think that'll be just about it.
So that should represent, now we're at 900 pounds of force, which is what we just demonstrated in that bone-crushing bite. So.
To reconstruct the conditions of the bite, Jim will recreate the tug of war.
All right, so just to ask you, Heather, after the bite here, you had people pulling on you, right?
Yeah, the shark was clamped down on my leg and they were pulling my arms.
Right on top of that bone. Okay, go ahead. That was the one right there.
That's 900 pounds of bite force.
See the pressure? Look at it, it's actually splitting the entire leg open. Well, take a look at this, Wes. I think we got the initial bone did break.
Oh, yes.
It's still slightly connected, but again with that tug of war action going on out there, so that could have been the last break. And
I think so.
Give it a couple little shakes, and I mean he's pulling away with
That's it.
That seemed really real I mean, you know, the clamp down, crack.
What happened in 1994 on the open ocean has just been replicated in a California workshop, down to the last chilling detail.
You know, in both cases, in Erich's case and in Heather's case, the tests were so realistic. You know, I mean, I think we captured them in both cases. And when Heather told me, you know, the last thing she felt was this pop.
For Heather, the test drove home the irony that a small tug from the people holding on to her was all it took to break her leg bone.
Well, it's true that if they hadn't have been trying to help me, well, I wouldn't be alive. But the additional force of them pulling, you know, I don't think that the shark would have bitten my leg off. But at the same time, if they hadn't have pulled me out, you know, I wouldn't be here. He probably would have, yeah, just pulled me back under and eaten me anyway.
We've learned that the forces involved in shark bites can be colossal. For the mighty great white, think about the weight of a car on top of a row of razor-sharp daggers. But why did the shark attack Heather? Not once, but twice. Shark behavior expert Erich Ritter is about to analyze the attack footage frame by frame to try to find the motivation behind this violent action. These steel-toothed creations have shown us more about the mechanics of a shark bite than we ever knew, or maybe ever wanted to know. But our sharks bite on demand. Why do real jaws bite? That's a complex question, one that Erich Ritter is consumed by. In fact, it's the reason why he puts himself in so many precarious situations.
I want to expose myself in every possible situation where humans actually could end up with sharks. You cannot do that from inside a cage, from shore, from videos or remote cameras. You really have to be there to get a feeling.
Just look at this guy. Look at that.
The chances of being bitten by a shark are so low as to be almost beyond calculation. A shark's natural tendency is to stay away from us.
The interesting thing is when a shark for the first time sees a human being, almost all the time it's the first time for a shark, they're very hesitant. They stay far away, they don't want to come too close. For once, humans are very large, we're unfamiliar objects.
But there are ways we can cause a shark to overcome its shyness. A spearfisher in the water with a wounded fish is at the highest risk of all. Any nearby shark can smell and hear the fish, and the human holding it is in the way.
He knows that there's the food, but on the other hand, there's the person, the competitor. And the shark has to deal first with the competitor, so this can end up in one or several bites in order to get to the food, to the fish.
When you have something that a shark wants, you should probably just hand it over. But by far the most common reason behind an attack taps into our most primal fear. The shark thinks we are prey.
Very often we humans create a scenario where the shark is so curious what we could be that he tries to check us out. Very often we sound like a fish, we even smell in a similar manner.
When a shark comes at us, our reflex is to swim away. Unfortunately, that only convinces it we must be prey.
We learned when we interact with shark that you can actually diffuse actively by doing things to the animals. Doing means not hitting an animal, but slightly move touch an animal, push it away. It has really an incredible effect. What actually goes on in the animal's mind, we will never know.
Erich Ritter's 15 years of shark study has been an effort to see the world from their point of view. Now he's ready to share what he has learned with us. We mounted a special camera to the head of one of Walt Conti's animatronic models. Shark senses are radically different from ours. Here is what a human eye would have seen swimming up to Erich Ritter's leg. But most sharks can see ultraviolet light, something to which we are blind. ultraviolet light gets scattered when it hits the ocean, silhouetting potential targets against a bright background. Sharks also have a little understood organ on their snouts which perceives electric fields around living organisms. And they can detect the slightest changes in water pressure from movement. Seeing a shark's eye view of the world makes Ritter skeptical of one piece of modern folklore: that surfers often get bitten by great white sharks because they look like seals.
Okay, does this motion looks like a seal? I don't think so. But what is interesting here for the animal? Definitely the motion, the sound. So in very rare cases, the animal will lower its threshold and actually approach and check it out, what it could be. It could be prey. It's in a horizontal position, it's floating at the surface. Why not check it out?
When a shark gets curious, it usually tries a light exploratory bite. But in the case of the mammoth great white, its urge to explore you could kill you instantly.
3,000-pound animal, what the animal thinks is gentle, can be fatal to us.
If you survive that first bite, a shark almost always moves on, having discovered that we don't taste like its normal diet. But one shark made a glaring exception to that rule: the great white that attacked Heather Boswell.
Now here we see the animal starts to slightly turn.
Yeah.
Now this is interesting. What she did, she swam this way and came that way. She turned right at the boat.
Now Erich Ritter will attempt to analyze these horrific frames of video to see if he can uncover the motivation behind the second bite, the one that took Heather's leg.
The first bite that I saw, she followed you because you were swimming away, you were splashing, there was a lot of motion, so she was definitely attracted to you by what you were doing. So the first time she just grabbed you was an exploratory bite.
The first bite was most likely just curiosity, a reaction to an unusual burst of activity in a normally open stretch of ocean.
And then she let go.
Yeah, and then she let me go, and the little orange boat came around in front of me, and they handed me a broom handle for me to grab onto, so they could pull me out. And that's when she came back and grabbed my left leg and jerked me under the water.
Why did the shark come back to bite Heather again when it already knew she was not a fish or a sea lion? Under the sharp eyes of Erich Ritter, this jerky video reveals a subtle clue.
Here we see a boat moving.
Mm-hmm.
That, of course, that creates a very big current. Then we see here, this is you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here we have the boat, and this would be the shark approaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Unfortunately, in this case, I have to say, because you splashed, the animal was so attracted to you. Because you were slightly off the boat is the big threat.
Ritter's conclusion: this unusual second bite was the animal claiming Heather from the boat, which it may have considered another large predator.
Oh my God.
Yeah, oh my God, this is true. How do you feel now when you see these pictures?
It just, reminds me of just how horrible it was for everybody to see. I mean, you can't really see a lot, but the emotion really comes through in the vocals.
Most of the time, a shark attack is not an attack at all, just a moment of flesh-ripping curiosity. But no analysis of shark behavior would be complete without including one terrible event. It's the story of the worst shark attack in recorded history. In 1945, several hundred sailors lived through a 4-day ordeal adrift on the Pacific.
There was no way we could fight the sharks. They were with us forever. All we hoped was that they wouldn't come in too often and eat.
The shark took my buddy within 3 feet of me, just covered me with water, and hit him and took him under.
For 60 years, the oceanic white-tip shark has been blamed for the death of hundreds of sailors. But the real guilty party may have escaped identification, until now. Using Erich Ritter's skill in shark bite forensics and our mechanical biting machines, we're about to separate truth from myth and fly with the tiger shark. On July 30th, 1945, the USS Indianapolis was torpedoed in the Philippine Sea. The next 4 days would see the worst carnage by sharks in recorded history. 900 men went into the water. 316 were still alive when help finally came.
The worst thing, I was scared of being hit by a shark, because if you got hit by a shark, you're finished.
By some accounts, hundreds of men were ripped to pieces by sharks.
Then you hear somebody scream, and you know he's just been had by a shark again.
Why did the sharks claim so many victims? Now, Dr. Erich Ritter, with the help of our investigative team, will attempt to solve the mystery. Ritter wants first to see the tragedy of the USS Indianapolis from a shark's point of view.
There were some sea disasters, Second World War, US Indianapolis, for example, where it was said that the majority of them died because of shark accidents. So, and I would really like to recreate some of these possibilities, what could have attracted them and what could have repelled them.
Using our shark vision system, Ritter and Walt Conti attempt to understand how sharks might have reacted to the motions of the sailors.
From the shark's perspective, we can go from person to person and actually look at the differences.
The key to warding off sharks is avoiding doing things that their prey does.
So horizontal position is not the way to go because most likely every prey of sharks is horizontally oriented.
Instead, you should stay vertical or float with as little motion as possible. Or best of all, according to Dr. Ritter's research, be vertical and still.
This person does not move at all, so there's no propulsion going on, there's no water pressure going on, and if the person in a vertical position has the chance to actually turn with the shark, that's even better.
But in 1945, the Navy's rulebook advised differently. The rulebook was wrong.
Kick and scream when they see him coming. May have not been the right thing, but that's what they told us at the academy.
Yeah, Stephen, if you could start splashing. Yeah, try to go like, Stephen, try to go like splashing like this, exactly. So for a shark, it's extremely loud, he hears it, and you know, the whole motion, so this is very attracting to a shark and definitely not repelling.
Bad advice from the rulebook helps explain the magnitude of the attack, but not the severity of the wounds. Many victims' legs were severed cleanly from their torsos.
Find a guy and he'd be dead, pull his life jacket off, and he'd be cut in half, or a leg missing.
How can we discover what species of shark was involved in an attack that took place 60 years ago, where no photographs of the victims' wounds remain? Most attacks on humans in the open Pacific are blamed on oceanic whitetips. But there's another possibility. 40 years after the Indianapolis tragedy, another man had an encounter with a shark in the Pacific, and this one was much closer to shore.
I was sitting in the water with the boogie board in front of me. My hands were basically holding on the side. I was sort of draped like this, and he just popped out of the water and just got me like this.
In an explosion of bubbles, a shark arrived and just as quickly vanished. Then Joe Thompson noticed that his right hand was gone.
I mean, I look over and there's 2 bones sticking out about 3 inches, and then just, you know, my arm. And it was a clean cut. And just this arc of blood just went up in the air, about 2 or 3 feet.
The culprit? A tiger shark. These animals can actually grow as long as great whites and can weigh almost a ton. Their teeth are unlike any other shark. One side is sharp enough to puncture on contact, the other serrated for easy slicing. Could this be the shark that took down many of the Indianapolis's men? Our shark factory has already produced 2 prototypes. They have created a convincing display of shark and awe. Now, we're about to bring to life a third. Meet the shark with the deadliest bite of all, the tiger shark. Since the tiger shark is so large, our engineers at Technifex were able to take the chassis of their mechanical great white, replace the teeth, and create a mechanical tiger shark overnight. We're about to discover whether the tiger's bite lives up to its reputation. Remember what the great white did to the fish?
Very clear bite pattern here.
Here is the same size fish being attacked by the tiger at the same speed and with the same pneumatic bite force as the great white bite you have just seen.
Let's see, go ahead and open it up, Kevin.
You see, it's a very clean cut. It's not shredded, nothing.
Right.
Just tiger sharks are very famous for their now clean cut.
The great white fish was punctured. The tiger prey is sliced in half.
Completely different from the white.
Oh, yeah.
White had,
Oh, yeah.
had puncture
Exactly.
through it.
Exactly.
They're so much different. They act just like a saw, you know. Just the impact coming into something would just cut it right down.
These teeth can saw and cut at the same time as soon as the animal starts to shaking its head, or even when you go through an object, it saws and cuts. So this in itself is such perfectly arranged that these animals can go much easier, even through a shell of a turtle and through other tissue.
Ritter realizes how lucky he was not to be attacked by a tiger.
And that's what we've been trying to do is see the differences between it, and this is a clear difference.
Yeah.
Our great white had difficulty slicing the lamb. Our tiger shark has no such trouble.
Look at that.
Unbelievable.
The shark that is usually blamed for the USS Indianapolis attacks is the oceanic whitetip, an animal similar in size and tooth structure to the bull shark. But our mechanical tests have shown that a shark of that power would struggle to create the wounds the sailors described. Only the tiger's teeth could have cut cleanly through a grown man's leg.
His body has no question in my mind that he could bite through in one major bite.
We've also shown something else. The great white is not the shark with the most deadly bite. Our tests show that for sheer slicing power, that honor should go to the tiger shark. The devastation sharks are capable of stands in sharp contrast to their natural grace, power, and agility. Somehow, that whiff of danger makes them more beguiling. So much so that people are prepared to risk their lives to be close to them. Dr. Erich Ritter took that gamble and lost. But now, he is ready to go back in the water, and he will allow the entire footage of his accident to be shown. Dr. Erich Ritter's journey to understand what happened during these agonizing seconds is almost over. With his help, we have recreated the precise choreography of his encounter with a 400-pound bull shark. We've measured the true force of shark bites. Thanks to our mechanical models, we've found out exactly what those bites are capable of doing. We've learned that great whites can exert half a ton of bite force. That tiger shark teeth can cut cleanly through flesh and bone. And most important for Erich, we've seen what a bull shark can do to a human leg. We've also seen that when sharks attack at speed, the forces involved are enough to shatter bones on contact, and that the reaction of the victim affects the outcome of a bite. We've discovered that sharks aren't just mindless brute force biting machines. Each bite is a complex maneuver.
If we've learned anything in this test, it's not all about the pressure of the bite and the force of the bite. It's about all the actions combined and how these sharks actually think and move and adapt to whatever target they're working on.
As Erich Ritter has guided and observed this investigation, a random act of horrific violence has become something more. The event has been reduced to data.
So far, we had about 150.
That data has now been processed. As a scientist, Dr. Ritter has now gained the perspective to understand precisely what happened to him. Split second by split second. April 9th, 2002 started out like any other day in tropical paradise.
Okay, look at this guy.
The water was warm and clear.
Oh, We're surrounded by fully grown bull sharks.
And the bull sharks seem to be playing along with Erich Ritter's high-stakes research.
And as long as we don't move around, it's pretty fine.
We know what happens next. Up to now, we have presented censored versions of the attack. But now, armed with the knowledge of what happened, it is possible to see the attack the way Dr. Ritter now sees it. A collision between a man and a magnificent animal. Still, the footage in its entirety is extremely graphic. And we warn you, if you do not want to see the full reality of a shark bite on a human being, then look away now.
I didn't even think that I was bleeding that much. But obviously I did, huh? Yeah. Muscles are just hanging there. Ow. Yep, quite intense. At one point I realized she's pulling me to the deeper water. Now I see it for the first time how strongly she really tried to really pull me into the deeper water.
Understanding exactly what happened to him during the attack, moment by moment, bite by bite, has given Ritter his deepest insight yet into shark behavior.
You know, you work with these animals for so many years, but it's always a guessing. And this is when in his job, you always ask, okay, how much damage could this animal do? Now, I know. Now, this question has been answered in a very painful manner, but this gives me now even a better understanding of these animals.
For Erich Ritter, the process of recovery from his bite could only end with one thing: doing what he loves the most, going back into the water.
My bite does not even exist anymore down here. Absolutely beautiful.
What's your favorite shark?
The bull shark.
That hasn't changed since the bite?
No, my bite never changed my ideas about these animals. Actually, if there's one change, is actually, I think it got me even closer to these animals. I think I understand them even better. I feel even more comfortable with these animals now.